Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions Daily, 4 p.m. UK. As always, think we're on the consecutive day of day 33 of recording. Wow. So yeah, I don't know how long I can keep this up 7 days a week, but I do promise odd things from time to time. And I plan to stick to this one as long as it's not a couple of years or so. Then you might have to forgive me for having a day off every so often. But anyways, joining me today is Brent, Destiny, and of course, the good Dr. Ellis. Going around the room, if everyone can introduce themselves, starting with you, Brent. Give a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, sure thing. I am coming to you guys live from southern France, from the US, and I've been running AMC Pathfinder for almost 5 years now. And we do ad management for businesses selling on Amazon in North America and EU.
Excellent. And for you, Destiny?
Yeah, of course. So I am based out of Bentonville, Arkansas. I manage Better AMS. So we handle, sponsor products, sponsor brands, sponsor display at scale. Been doing this for 4 years now, so it's all I know.
Excellent. And to you, Ellis, sorry, I'm just going to start sharing these out to the group. That's why I'm turning away at the moment.
Yeah, no problem.
Because we syndicate to all the groups that are listed along the bottom. So yeah, do you want a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, well, I work with Danny. We started Databrill, and we're an ad agency focusing on Amazon PPC, sponsored products in particular, and yeah, happy to be on here.
Cool. Right, so let's get into it, guys. So we've done a show before. Some of you are on different shows instead of the same ones. Let's just take it back. So going back, 5 weeks, we had a lot of the issues where maybe a bit longer than 5 weeks, where people couldn't send in non-essential items. We see there's a big takeoff of essential goods, depending on what area it is, but they generally done well. I mean, we've got clients that done super well without naming names in the sports category around Europe because of training items at home, Ellis, right? But then obviously other people took a hit. And then we obviously had this whole thing with the delayed lead times in terms of deliveries, which have a massive, massive impact on conversion. Someone clicks on the ad, goes through and says, oh, right, it's 3 weeks till delivery. I'll jump out of here and see if I can find something else. Obviously, these are changed now for the stuff that we've covered previously. What observations, starting with Brent, have you seen that's changed from the kickoff to the pandemic 4 or 5 weeks ago to what you're seeing now?
Yeah, so maybe the two most notable things that I kind of combed through and looked at before this call is the massive drop in impressions. And I have a kind of theory about that. And I see both of you nodding as well. And I'm interested to propose my kind of hypothesis theory here and see what everyone thinks. And then the conversion rates taking a dive as well. So we've seen both of those things start to slowly stair step back up over the past 4 weeks. I'm looking at a dashboard we have right now of all our accounts in aggregate. And you can see the massive drop in impressions, maybe close to 48 or 49% from 1 week to the next. And then every week since, it's come back by a single digit percentage to where it is now. And we see conversion rate overall also making a recovery, slow but steady.
Excellent. I'll quickly
say two notable examples.
Oh, sorry, you're still going. Is there some stuff there you want to cover?
No, but I mean, CPC also is staying flat to where it's kind of fallen in the past 4 weeks. That's one thing I'm pulling out of the data here. And click-through rate is also up a lot. And that's related to my theory about the impressions. But I'll get to that in a later part. I want to let other people talk.
Cool. I'm going to quickly say some hellos to the message board and those on the stream, and then we'll move over to Destiny. So Owen says, hi, everyone, win the day, which is part of what we were talking about yesterday, having 5 key things to win the day. Make sure you implement those tasks of the day so that you win the day. Andrew Bison, the 4 p.m. part of my lockdown routine is now making a cup of tea, grab a slice of cake and switch on the Danny show. I'm going to miss this part of the day when lockdown's over. Well, we'll see how long. We don't know how fucking long it's going to be. So you might be sick of me by then. Right. Tiffany, again, welcome back, Tiff. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Saval from Singapore. Hope you're well. And then in the feed here, Oksana's joined us. Abe is here, Dimitri's here, Anna's here, Randy's back. So is Cindy. Sahal, hope you're well, brother. Yeah. So let's get into what's your thoughts, Destiny? Give me some rundowns similar to what Brent was saying, but your take
100%.
from your agency. Yeah.
So I think the biggest call I've seen, I've seen a lot of incredible agencies share data, and I don't think one thing has been too consistent across the board other than impressions and CPCs. So I had to pull out a few of our brands that crazily skewed data. But overall, we saw a major drop in impressions. And then our CPCs dropped like 17 cents from the beginning of March to what we're seeing now. So that's been really cool to see. But in terms of certain sales, certain click-through rate conversions, like I've seen a lot of big agencies share their total data, and it just doesn't completely align because I think it is so dependent on what's going on externally, whether or not your competitors are in stock, and then what your inventory situation looks like. You know, I have a few people that had FBM backups already there, so they didn't see a major drop. So if I were to share that information with my top line data, it's not going to line up with anyone else's. So I did a live a while ago, and the biggest thing was like, I'm not going to present to you any one size fits all solutions because it's so different across, you know, geography, where you're at, what your brand's doing. Like that's been the craziest thing, is just the fluctuations across accounts.
Yeah. Makes sense. Ellis, I'll bring you in here as well.
Well, let's see. It's really been kind of a wild ride. And
to put it mildly, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the first couple of weeks when things started going south were super, super busy for us as we were, you know, kind of like trying to figure out what's going wrong with back then we were just having tons of problems with auto and broad campaigns. So anything that wasn't exact was just, Amazon was just throwing so many bad clicks at it, it seemed. And so, you know, one could theorize about where that was coming from, but we ended up really turning off a lot, or seriously reducing a lot of the auto and broad campaigns. And at some point we'll have to look into, you know, turning more of it back on or back up. But yeah, conversion rate is definitely better now than it was in that particularly crazy period. And like Brent mentioned, there was this really fascinating change in the click-through rate. So we have clients where their click-through rate on around March 21st, it's basically doubled and stayed there. It's been coming down a bit, but
in the last couple of weeks.
In the last week. But yeah, like I said, wild ride.
Yeah. So as you guys seen budgets changing, obviously we've got clients that slashed their budgets, and then there's clients that, you know, they just didn't make any changes and they scaled up the additionals, because if you're a sports brand and you've got at-home goods and you're selling them kind of items, you're just going to ride it, aren't you? You're going to take whatever you can get, and you still got to have one eye in stock and stuff. How is the impact on the budget changes, starting with you, Brent? First, the guys were gone into defense and then switched back to offense. What did you see there? Anything interesting?
We had surprisingly few clients that really hit the panic button really hard and wanted to just pull out entirely or stop spend. I would say maybe 25% of our clients had really, really grave concerns right away because they foresaw the categories that they were in were going to be hit really hard. And some of those prophecies, came true because they're all in on like one or two categories. And despite, healthy sales earlier in the month or the month prior, they were right to pull back on that. In some cases, we're paused with them too. Like, we're not even managing things. They're running at a low level. We're going to come back probably later this month or early next month. So I think that was probably a good call. Other clients definitely communicated with us about what our strategy was, and I felt it's good to be proactive about that. I tried to send out a lot of messages and emails to get in front of it, so to speak. And I echo what you said, Ellis, 100%. We saw a lot of auto campaigns in particular just go like hog wild. Like, it was like they must have a budget to control them, because otherwise they're just all over the place. And it was kind of puzzling. I think it was because we've seen such a huge influx of new shoppers on Amazon and just people in general. The traffic is up. So yeah, I think keeping that under control was a big piece. Does that get to the question? Okay, Danny?
Yeah, that's cool. Same to you, Destiny.
Yeah, so I want to echo what Brent said about kind of emotional panic reactions. That was kind of the biggest thing. The moment that was announced, we had to hop on a lot of calls and basically talk through their strategy, see where their inventory was at. I think inventory had a bigger play on the budget decisions we made versus kind of the category they are in. So we had a lot of brands that were going to get hit with the inventory issue. So rather than just like completely pausing ads, we definitely slowed down and started focusing way more on profitability than like scalability necessarily. So that was a really huge play. We had probably around 20% of brands that kind of came to us, are like, I think we need to completely stop. And then a lot of them were able to kind of adjust strategy. We've been pulling business reports kind of on a week-to-week basis, seeing how conversion rates have changed, then adapting our strategy to that. Overall, ACOS has increased by like 3%. But in general, it's just been kind of reallocating budget to what is converting well. We have one brand that typically does $3 million a month and they hit $20 million a month. So we've been taking those top tier products and driving a lot of budget to them, and then just kind of slashing anything that is just crazily dropped in conversion, which is kind of like spring break style items. Saw a major drop in. Supplements doing fantastic, baby category doing fantastic, but is so category specific right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Ellis, what's your take?
So we also saw this thing where about 25% of our clients were hit negatively by the coronavirus. About 50% were basically the same as they were before. In that 50% group, maybe down just a few percent or something, but basically the same. And then 25% have just been doing fantastic. And of the 25% that were hit badly, it's I would say on the higher end is a 60% hit. So their sales are down to about 40% of what they were. I think we had one client where it was worse than that. And then, of course, there's the situation with regard to inventory. So if a person has been, or a seller store has had problems with inventory through the whole not being able to get supplies back in, then of course they can be hit harder because their products aren't in stock and they now won't be for perhaps a couple months or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. What other observations have you guys seen? So we're talking with the changes that's happened with the coronavirus. What have you learned from, we talked about click-through rates and conversion rates earlier on, and how people are addressing these with setting up a 3PL and then sending FBM. What impact have you seen FBM versus FBA for you, for instance, Brent?
Well, I think Destiny had a really interesting point, which is a lot of her clients, their clients, you guys' agency, they had some sort of, second party, fulfillment capability besides FBA already in place, whether that's a 3PL or their own warehouse or just some kind of backup where things are resting before they go to FBA. I think it's pretty clear the best model is to ship things to Amazon as just in time as you can manage, so you don't incur those storage fees and everything. And we also had a handful of clients that were ready to shift things over. And so for us, it was a matter of changing which SKUs we're advertising. It's the same ASIN, of course, but a different SKU. And, I think the news has since come out. Amazon is not in any way, penalizing FBM fulfillment now. It's not like Prime is the better option, which is traditionally the conventional wisdom, right? And which is why so many people do use that, or seller fulfilled Prime if possible, which is now almost like a dead program, but still exists for some of our clients. Some of them do use it. And that has been pretty eye-opening, because now I would encourage clients to actually have a provision for that in place if they didn't before, some sort of backstop measure in case something like this happens again. Or the entirely realistic situation where there's like a second wave of reinfections and things have to go back under lockdown. Amazon's warehouse and fulfillment capabilities are compromised. Actually, Ellis, you might have heard this because you also live in Europe, but here in France, all the Amazon warehouses are closed entirely. Yeah. Every single one of them. So, that's definitely one of these black swan scenarios that maybe a lot of sellers in France never expected.
Do you think also that comes the shutdown? Is it just because of COVID-19, or is it because France wanted to limit Amazon to what they could sell, and then Amazon protested, or was it because they completely shut down? I never kind of got the reasoning behind it, but I know the French government were leaning on Amazon.
It had to do with worker safety. So there was actually a, France has a really strong record of like worker rights and safety. And so there was a, I guess a union,
unionized,
I think somewhere in Nanterre, which is, I think down south here. Never actually been there. But basically, workers are complaining about it. It got sent to a court. The decision was made very quickly. And my understanding is the French government said, all right, Amazon, you can be fined €1 million a day, or you can shut down, or you can fix this situation. So they said, we're going to shut down for a week at first. We're going to try to fix the situation as fast as we can. And in the meantime, fulfillment is going to take place from other European FCs, including Poland and Czech Republic, but also Spain, Italy, etc.
Yeah. Cool. So, Ellis?
What was the question? Or what was the topic? Oh, it was anything else.
Well, I've got a question. While you think about that, there's a question here from Jason. Morning from San Francisco. Your clients launching new products now or pausing. What is scaring them to not take action? That's going to be varied, isn't it? Because if you've got good products to go, essential products, you're going to go all in, aren't you? If you haven't, then you're going to go in the opposite direction. So, Destiny, to you. Give us an example.
Kind of piggybacks off of that, but not completely. Something we've seen is products on page one that are out of stock are still showing. So consumers are clicking through like 8 to 9 different listings, trying to figure out what's in stock, what has the best lead time. If you have a product that is an essential category like that, it's a great opportunity to piggyback off all the people that aren't in stock. So that's something we've kind of seen. I don't think a single one of our brands have actually launched a new ASIN at this time, but that's something we've seen with just traditional advertising, is making sure we're piggybacking off all those listings that are out of stock, because the top 3 people, they're still getting a ton of views, ton of clicks, even if they have crazy lead time. So it's a perfect opportunity to run, sponsored brands, the new brand store pages, and then your product display ads under there.
Yep. Same to you, Ellis. We had anyone launch recently? We've had a few. We launched new products. I know I got off a call with a client today. He's launching 3 in the next week, and I was going through the strategy with her on that. But have we had anyone else that's launched?
Yes, we've had a number of launches over the last couple weeks.
Cool.
Let's see. We're not really doing anything particularly different besides, actually, I think I'll get back. I remember the question that you'd originally asked, and it was about the FBM FBA difference, and that then is also relevant to this question of how do you launch.
There you go, 2 for 1.
So what we're seeing is that we still see a conversion rate hit for FBM versus FBA. And this is even if in reality the FBM products will be delivered before the FBA. The products can still have, what Amazon says on there is, this will be delivered at some time. And that time might be much further in the, number of days later than it actually will be delivered. But that's what's there. You'll get it in a week, or you'll get it in 5 days or something like that. And so people, of course, are making their decisions partially based on the delivery times. And so even if you do have a fast FBM delivery time, Amazon might not show that. And so then this plays a role in how we want to launch. So there, where we're seeing that for one reason or another, the products are showing a delivery date that is not so close in time, more than a week out or something. For some of the stuff, we're putting it off. We're saying, no, we want to wait until we have a shorter delivery time, at least one that's more in line with the better sellers in this niche. So that plays a role. And if, however, we see that the delivery time is not an issue for a particular product, then we've been proceeding basically as normally, but and even with the auto and broad campaigns, we've been going normally for the launches, even though we've turned those off for or down for a lot of the other products.
Tony, do you want to answer anything on to the end of here, Destiny, or I can move and ask you Tony's question? It's up to you.
No, I think that was the biggest thing. I guess one thing to tack on is switching SKUs over for FBA to FBM. Something we've also seen in that scenario is for sponsored brands, headline search ads. If you have an ASIN go out of stock, your ad will typically still show, even if you have a backup. And that can really affect performance, especially if you're aligning your targeting with that specific ASIN. So if you see a crazy spike in sponsor brand performance, check and make sure that all of the ASINs that are relevant with the keywords you're targeting are in stock. It's a pain to go through every single one, but that's been something we've seen a lot of fluctuations with.
Cool.
Is that where it shows up as only 1 or 2 products instead of all 3?
Even if you have all 3, as long as your landing page has, 4 to 5, if one of the top products in the actual headline ad are out of stock, it'll still show as long as your other products are in.
Sure. Okay.
Cool. Right, so Tony says, my listings are getting the buy box over FBA. Is this due to the quicker delivery time? ? Also, many customers don't have Prime 2. Who wants to take this one? Anyone? Bueller?
Well, I can say we've seen this phenomenon.
Yeah.
Us too, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know all the reasons.
Right. And so we also can't see the reasons why FBA is sometimes chosen, FBM is sometimes chosen. Like I was talking with a client earlier today, and he has FBM and FBA SKUs for a particular product where he had set the FBM price to the same as the FBA one. And he expected to have the FBA always have the buy box. But we've been seeing the FBM ones often having the buy box, even though they have the same price. And in the past, he had the experience of at the same price, Amazon would show the FBA. Give the FBA SKU the buy box.
Makes sense.
Yeah, can't really say much more about it.
Ben says, also seeing FBA issues in France and Italy now, so had to switch those off in those markets for some clients, depending on category, to avoid customer dissatisfaction with non-delivery. That's been another big problem. It's not just delivery time, it's also been non-delivery. Have you guys, I don't know if you've get access to those data, Destiny, but you seen anything in terms of refunds increase through non-delivery?
Not anything that I can pull out with data, but I know like a lot of our fashion category items, which typically already has a high amount of returns and refunds, we completely stopped advertising just because the combination of lead time and everything just made it not even worth it from a profitability standpoint.
Yeah, makes sense. Brent?
We track refunds now through some software that we have. We can export a lot of data from client accounts, and we can try to line up refunds with sales days and then with spend. I mean, it's not the same day that you get a refund that you buy something, obviously, but it's interesting to see how those two things line up. I don't think there's a real correlation between them. But I can't say that that's something that has had a big spike. I mean, my understanding is Amazon's going to extend the window for refunds and returns greatly into late May or something in the US. At least I've heard news about that.
Yeah. We've heard of a lot more delivery complaints, like in France, as was mentioned, and in the UK. So I've heard that the UK postal system is it was seeing, I don't know if it's true, but what I heard, postal system has been seeing 3 times the load of Christmas.
Right. I didn't know that, but it hasn't been that great. I know that customs hasn't been great. I got a package that sent to me on the 29th of March. I only received it today. It only cleared customs, or yesterday. It cleared customs, and I got a frightening customs bill out of it as well. I
love those. Yeah, France likes sending me those too when I order anything from abroad.
Yeah, definitely not a beautiful thing. 90% of my current refunds are regarding delivery issues or non-delivery. Owen, is that? I know you're from the UK, but is that in the EU overall, or is that mainly in the UK? Be good to know and let people on the show know. Okay. Any questions in the feed? Feel free to drop them in. Going to quickly say some hello. So we've got
Hey, Danny, I want to pose my hypothesis to the other panelists here, including yourself.
Yes, I would love to hear it, Brett.
Let me quickly say some hellos, and then we'll do that. So Aaron joined the call. Danielle is here. Tham is here. Frank is here also. Ben Valance. Andrew's returned. David is here. Carlos, hope you're well, brother. Tony is, of course, he's answering questions there. Nanette is here. Chrisio as well, and of course Jason Chu who tunes in every day. Okay, so hypothesis away, my friend.
All right, so we've seen two, and I confirm this with the both of you because we talked about it just now. I've seen two things happen, right? Amazon is intentionally trying to sell less. If you go on Amazon.com and you look at the list of things, which I did this morning, it's all like books, movies, digital downloads. They did have one little carousel devoted to sneakers for some reason, but for the most part, they're discouraging people from buying physical products right now, which is very strange. They've also dropped the incentives and bounties on the associates program like drastically. So people are, running those associate affiliate websites are making a lot less money and a lot less incentivized to send traffic. I think that's maybe a coincidence, but that's pretty nasty for those people. I feel for them. And then the other thing we confirmed is the drop in impressions. So my question for everyone is, why did the impressions drop so drastically? And on what particular days did you see that? And why do you think that is? I'm curious what you guys all think.
So one thing that we saw for a lot of our categories was actually this ridiculous spike in impressions on like the 21st. I network pretty closely with Silas from Lego, and he kind of called me and he was like, hey, have you seen this? And it was like 3x, 4x on certain days. Crazy spike compared to what our year-to-date numbers were. And then after 3 to 4 days of that, we saw a crazy drop off. And now we're running, quite a bit lower than what we typically are. My first assumption was taking away, today's deals, because your auto campaigns do syndicate into those placements and they get a lot of impressions and a lot of traffic. So for a lot of our brands, that was kind of one of the bigger issues that are consistently running deals. We saw a drop off there. And the other big thing for me is, just like what you mentioned, there's a lot of external things Amazon does to listings to kind of influence placements based off geography and things like that. And in general, they're trying to influence traffic more towards essential items and things like that. So there's things happening that we're not even fully aware of, and we can probably never fully correlate the data to line up with. But that is 100% kind of what our assumption was as well.
Cool. Ellis?
So the date that we generally see for when the click-through rate increased was around the 21st of March. And our impressions are at, I don't know, maybe 60% of what they had been the 4 weeks before that. Just on average, I haven't actually calculated this. This is a gut feeling. And then also figuring into this situation is auto campaigns have often been doing badly, and then the question of, is it that Amazon is sending those who are still advertising more of these impressions, or but we have less impressions, so, or is it just that in general, the conversion rates are down because of the longer delivery times and more people searching who maybe aren't as used to buying? I don't know. I'll be very curious to hear your thoughts, Brett.
My theory. Yeah. Danny, do you have any input for this one? I don't want to blow past you. You have
no. Go on. You go for it. I'll just play host.
Okay. Well, so my hypothesis, my theory here is that since Amazon simultaneously modified the shipping dates on the 21st, 22nd, and then also changed up a lot of ad placements on product pages, since a large majority of impressions come from product pages, yes, that is where we saw a drop. So what I did is, with a team member, we pulled reports for all of our larger clients that have a substantial amount of spend across not just the US, but in Europe, in European markets too. And what we found, I wrote this down just before we started. So the percentage of impressions coming from top of search is anywhere from 1 to 2.5% on average for a lot of these accounts. but now that's jumped for anywhere from 4 to 6% because the number of impressions from product pages has dropped substantially. And that started on the 21st, 22nd of March without fail in all the accounts we examined. I'm talking like 360,000, impressions one day, and then 100,000 the next day, and then it stays at 100,000, a little bit over for like a week. So in many cases that was like 70s into mid 80s%, and now it's high 50s to the mid 60s%. And if you look on a lot of product detail pages, you'll notice there's a lot less sponsored products carousels. I did see more today when I was looking around at one of our clients, but they're also in a category that's really doing quite well right now. So I'm not sure if that's part of the reason. This is the part that's anecdotal. I can tell you the data part, which I gave some numbers there, but my feeling is that the combination of those two things is why we're seeing less impressions. And what that led to is a giant spike in click-through rate, because a much higher percentage of our impressions are top of search. And that's going to go ahead and give you the spike in click-through rate if up to 8 or 9% of your impressions are now in that prominent placement. So that's my main theory hypothesis. I'd be really interested to see what you and other people have to say about that, because that's what we found looking through some of our bigger accounts.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Ellis.
No, please go ahead, Destiny.
I ran the same report this morning on performance by placement, because now they're kind of influencing where sponsored products related to used to be is now kind of that sponsored brand ad, which has brands related to, which isn't product specific. And I think that kind of aligns perfectly with your theory as well. When you're not seeing 30 different images in the carousel of actual products, price reviews, but instead you're seeing a brands related to, I think that has a major effect on impressions. When you have to specifically put in an ASIN for product targeting, it takes much more time rather than having an auto campaign, syndicate in that placement.
Makes sense. Ellis?
Yeah, that's related.
So yep, the theory seems consistent. The Brent about the fewer ads on the product placements. So like I'd mentioned, I think I mentioned this, we've seen the click-through rates go up as much as 2 times for some clients. And that fits in well with the impressions being down to about half of what they had been the previous 4 weeks. And interesting that we have not seen a decrease in clicks in general. I mean, some accounts, yes, but in lots of accounts, we've not seen a reduction in clicks. And the cost per click has been relatively steady with a slight downward trend. Just adding some extra data points to the thing. Discussion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. We've had a slight downward for cost per click. We were at 61, 60 cents, and then, we're at about 54 the last couple weeks here, 54, 53, holding pretty steady. And clicks took a dip in the week of March 15th and March 22nd, but then they came back pretty shortly thereafter.
So Shiraz says, Eden from Pakistan, any comments regarding running brand awareness campaigns, seeing the surge of traffic in recent time for non-essential items? Destiny, this is your world.
Yeah, 100%. So there's quite a few things we're doing here for brands that have the inventory in place and want to push. One of the big things is running every single different type of product targeting on the product detail page due to out of stocks and inventory issues for some of the big name brands. Anything that has a delay or is out of stock, we're really pushing ASIN targeting from Seller Central, sponsored display product targeting, sponsored brands product targeting. All of those are big because now they're showing up as the big placements under the buy box and then the brands related to. Another thing that we're doing is really, really top of the funnel video and search campaigns. So typically, we focus on really highly relevant keywords just due to conversion and ACOS reasons. But video and search is still pretty not competitive. So we're running, video and search on as top of the funnel as you can get. So if we have, a health and beauty product, maybe a skincare product, we're targeting keywords that are health and beauty, health products, things like that. And we're still seeing really decent ACOSs. The CPC decrease is something I think a lot of us are seeing across the board, which gives great potential for just increasing bids, targeting more top of search and higher funnel keywords because we can maintain the same ACOS. So that's kind of been our biggest focus.
Gotcha. Just to follow up with what Owen was saying earlier on. So he said, to be fair, this is across all EU markets, which goes back to what he said, 90% of my refunds are regarding delivery issues or non-delivery. He's saying it's not just UK, it's EU. Daniel was saying, I'm finding Royal Mail, Track 24 and 48 parcels are all still being delivered fine across the UK. Sherez says, again, he's seeing overall a surge in traffic for e-commerce in general. My theory behind that is when Amazon's not selling non-essential items, people has to go and shop elsewhere. So therefore, other marketplaces and Shopify and Magento sites, etc., is still going to get that traffic as well. And there's also people out there who don't maybe trust Amazon. I know my mum is like anti it because she once had card fraud about 50 years ago, so she won't shop on Amazon no more. So she even asked me for I got her address off her yesterday to send her some masks over, and she said on Facebook, "Can you delete it for me after?" Like she wanted me to delete it just in case it's there. So you got that end of the scale where people won't shop on Amazon because they don't trust it. I think Joe Reichfeld, who comes on the show here, he's like an Amazon consultant that doesn't shop on Amazon as well. What else we got here? Since many people jump on essential products, what do you think about preparing and launching non-essentials within the next 2 to 3 months? I think you got to watch, is the curve flattening? That I know, as crazy as it sounds, like I've got 3 data boards that I reference. And if I'm looking at stuff, I'm looking for when optimism returns, and I'm looking to see if the curve is flattened. So depending on the territory, and if you're launching non-essential items, I would use that as partly as the guide as well, because once the curve flattens, optimism returns, people become more comfortable, and it may not be the same as going back to normal, but what it does, it shows a light at the end of the tunnel. And so what you have to do, you have to have your crystal ball and you have to think ahead. It's like, do I hedge my bet? Do I wait like a lot of people, or do I plan for when the curve flattens? That would be my take. What's yours? I'm going to go with Brent first.
Well, let's assume that by mid-late summer, a lot of countries, that are currently undergoing some severe lockdown and a lot of cases and fatalities, unfortunately, are going to be in a better place. So, if consumer confidence and spending power is back, if you launch something that's conducive to the warm months, that sounds like a great thing. Timing is a tough question, and I'm not a product launch expert. But I would say, especially in your whatever the political situation is too, because I know in the U.S. it's really at a state by state level, whereas in France and UK things are really more of a national kind of federal perspective. For instance, I'm locked down here near Montpellier, but we have very few cases here. It's other parts of France that are affected, but as a country, we're all undergoing this simultaneous kind of like trauma. So whenever that's lifted, that's when I assume, people will be going back to stores and purchasing things, and, hopefully unemployment will be improving at that point. So
sounds good. Same question to you, Destiny. What would be your take here? Do you look for the crystal ball? Do you go where the puck is going? Wait, observe?
Personally think the 2 biggest things that we'll have to watch for is kind of the economic impact, because there are still a lot of non-essential items that are technically something that could be essential that you're going to want to purchase. But if it's something that's going to be like a $300 product, that's just a giftable or something that's kind of a splurge purchase, probably not fantastic, because we are going to have some type of economic impact. The other big thing, I think, is kind of the changes in shopper behavior. That's something we're seeing in Walmart world here, is like you have the elderly generation who's never shopped online because of that mistrust. And they're being forced to do it now because they don't want to go in stores. It's not safe to go in stores. And they're going to order off Amazon, Walmart. If they have a fantastic experience, they're going to continue to do that. So I think we're going to continue to see this steady increase in just e-commerce in general. I think it's going to maintain because people are going to realize this is 90 times better than going into store and walking down aisles and things like that. So we're going to continue to see a lot of people on .com, e-commerce. So that's going to maintain. So if it's a product that aligns with that, it's, a subscribe and save type of product, those are probably going to continue to do really well. If it's something that's just not a necessity at all, I would be nervous about launching it just because of the economic kickback.
Yeah. Ellis, do you have any comments on it?
There's one of the really famous quotes from investing is time in the market beats timing the market. And of course, there are plenty of people who, sort of focus on trends and stuff like that and have success with it. Philosophically, that's not the direction I go. I would rather try picking a good product, building with a solid reason behind it, than trying to figure out the timing.
Yeah, cool. Another question. He says, "Great insights from Destiny." I'll take it off the screen because it ends up you're losing Destiny's face and Ellis there at the bottom. So I'll read it out. Great insights, thanks, Destiny. I have another question. When you're going out of stock, say within a week of your inventory of not arriving anytime soon, do you recommend running PPC aggressively, go out of stock at a higher keyword ranking, or go defensive mode, a kind of hibernation?
I think it depends on your ranking, where you're at organically now.
Yeah, and the competition in that category. Because if you've got low volume, you ranking high for keywords in low velocity, it doesn't really matter because you spring right back. But in high velocity markets, it needs a different approach.
100%. I think there's a lot of external factors there, kind of where your competition's at. If you're ranking, top 3 placements, you might as well cut PPC and just focus on profitability because it's not going to make that big of a difference. It's kind of, do you want to slow down and slowly decrease your ranking, or do you want to spike, stay out of stock, and then go back to that endpoint anyway? So if you're extremely profitable with your PPC, I don't have a problem continuing to run it, maybe just slowing down somewhat. I would probably just pause PPC in general and focus on profitability and just sell out if you have, a really healthy organic to advertising ratio.
Cool. Ellis, you want to add anything here?
So just that there is no right answer to the question. And
yes,
you can try to calculate, if you're not going to be coming back into stock ever, you're just going to sell out and stay out, then obviously if you're selling fine, you have more profit if you stop PPC. And that would make plenty of sense. But there's, as you guys were talking about, for high volume keywords, there's some best practice idea that it makes sense to, go out strong, then close the listing if you can. And then when you're back into stock, open the listing, and you're supposed to get back to ranking more quickly. Makes sense. That said, I have not seen consistent evidence of that. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay, Aaron Hughes says, this is an interesting question. Is anyone seeing a bump in sales due to stimulus checks? My sales were declining ever since COVID, but last 5 days has seen a bump to what I'm normally doing pre-COVID. That could be a weather change, could be a number of things, couldn't it? Could be a seasonality change. So we don't know products, and I'm sure you won't share them, but does anyone have any insights there and thoughts on that?
So I have a few thoughts on that. One, I think it'd be really hard to correlate the data just due to the timing of stimulus checks. I know that across the 5 days, it's not like they got 100% of stimulus checks out on Monday and you could see an additional spike. So I think that affects things by a lot. And I think it also is really category dependent. So, I mean, there may be some correlation there. I think it would just be really hard to correlate because I know like some people around here didn't get theirs until yesterday. Some people haven't got it. So that would be really hard to correlate.
We did have...
Oh, sorry, Destiny. Go on.
Yeah, sure.
No, I was just saying it 100% could be. I know people like to spend that money.
Well, he's come back actually. No, I don't care, meaning sharing his product. I sell wallets mostly, along with 1 million other people.
We did see for one of our clients an unusual peak on those first 2 days that the stimulus checks were being received. But I have no idea
Interesting,
what the real
Brent.
cause was. Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing more to add about that hasn't already been said.
Okay.
I think that it's going to be months until everyone gets all the checks. So it's not like there's a immediate, 100 million Americans receive checks. It's more like, I think it's a kind of like tapering off, a rocky road. It's not like a steady graph.
Yeah, Aaron just he just messaged into the group again after saying, I don't care, I sell wallets mostly along with 1 million other people. He said, copy me if you dare.
Aaron's spoiled for a fight.
Yeah, he is. Okay. Francesco says, my sales have exploded since the whole pandemic started, but I've noticed in the last 3 days they've slowed down drastically, but I still have high BSR on all of them. Putting the pieces together, shoppers aren't buying as much right now because of the high wait times are becoming a norm. They purchase a product and get it 3 weeks later. Anyone got any insights there?
Just sounds like a reasonable hypothesis about what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, it's just because I think the real question he was posing a statement and a question, but I still have a high BSR on all of them. Maybe we could unpick that. Anyone want to take that one?
Does he mean a low BSR or a high BSR?
Probably means a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a low one. Yeah. So does that mean the whole category is suffering from the same thing then?
Yeah.
If it's holding steady, and the BSR is updated more or less often depending on what level it's at, right? So if your BSR is in the hundreds of thousands, it gets updated. What is it, like once a week or something? It's not as common.
No, Brent. We see it gets updated about every 90 minutes to 4 hours, depending on the marketplace.
Oh wow. Okay. Is it kind of marketplace, not number?
Yeah, it's across the board completely. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Everything basically all at once.
And he wouldn't probably say this, but Ellis is on the algorithm team at Jungle Scout as well, so he's got a bit of knowledge in this.
I trust his word. Don't worry.
Yeah, a bit of knowledge in this area. Okay, Dennis, how would you evaluate a PPC agency? How would you separate the good ones and the bad ones? That's a brilliant question. Love that. Let's get into that. Yeah. Let's do this because, let's do this. I love this question. Right, Brent, you go first, and I'll take my turn on it after Destiny.
Okay. Let me try to gather my thoughts here. So I think one of the first things would be how communicative they are with you. If they have a lot of hesitancy to like jump on a call or answer, emails or messages with a reasonable turnaround time, that's probably a red flag. Also, you should be able to ask them, what their plans are for the future, what their strategies are. Not down to the keyword and bid level, because that's irritating. Don't do that for agencies. But what's their plan for the future? Okay, how you see the growth? What kind of launch strategy do you have? How are you going to handle these products? And you should be able to clearly define and communicate your business goals and your margins and your numbers. And then that agency should be able to handle that stuff. They should have systems to ingest that information and be able to manage ads to those goals that you can both agree on that are reasonable goals. Don't set impossible goals.
Yeah. Cool. Destiny, what's your take?
For my recommendation, I see this question asked a lot in groups. And I think the number one thing is finding a PPC agency that aligns with your long-term goals on Amazon. For example, we specifically focus on scaling. So if I have people reaching out that are just launching on Amazon, even if they're VC backed, they have the budget, we're probably not going to be a good fit because we need to launch a lot of campaigns, a lot of keywords. Our focus is on scaling. A lot of people are newbies, and that's going to be a whole different strategy, launching one product with a small budget than launching for 200 ASINs. So make sure who you're reaching out to. It's just a great alignment with your goals, kind of where you see your future, your branding, things like that. If you need to just focus on profitability because this is your first 1 or 2 ASINs, that's going to completely change the game on who you need to work with. And I will make that recommendation that we're probably not a good fit. So don't get scared by, you get what you pay for, what someone's costs are. I think it's the alignment from a relationship perspective, the communication, things like that, and just strategy alignment makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I always sit down because obviously I run on the business side. Ellis is running the team on the technical side. And key things I like to speak to clients about is that first things first, when this is a question people ask you and they are fishing, they're going to say, what is your current turnover and what is your ad spend? These are 2 very important questions. They're not just prying. People want to know to see if you are a fit, like Destiny says. I would argue that unless you're spending between 8 and 10 grand on ads per month and doing close to $1 million or above, to use software rather than go with an agency, unless, of course, you are utilizing someone that is optimizing your ads for a few hours, either per week or per month, because it's got to fit your total ACOS, or it wouldn't be relevant. Now, to separate the good ones and the bad ones, that's again going to be difficult. But going back to what Brent says, is the level of communication. Anyone who tells you exactly what results they're going to get you in 3 months' time is talking utter bullshit. They're lying to you. They just want to take their first 3 months worth of checks off you, right? That's what they want. Always look and see what there is. If there's a setup fee, and it's a high setup fee, if there's an ongoing fee, obviously there will be an ongoing fee. But look at the small print. If someone sticks in there 6 months, that you have to leave in you got 6 months before you can leave the contract, or that's a massive red flag as well, because that is a salesperson selling on an agency. That's not an agency taking care of the end customer. The job of an agency is to hand pick as well. Like we as an agency are interviewing you as well. If you're going to be a complete fucking nightmare who's going to email 15, 20 times a day and taking up all the time on that budget, you're going to be the worst kind of customer that anyone wants. So what you've got to look at is, what type of customer are you? Are you respectful? Are you looking to work with the right people to be a partner? So there's a lot of red flags that come on either side. And I commonly see in groups is like, who is the best agency out there that I can trust? Like, no one can be trusted. Do you know what I mean? And I would say probably a Facebook group is not always a great place to ask those questions. What you should do is ask people who are selling at your similar level and get references. Who do you use? How do they treat you? What's the monthly calls like? Do you get reporting from them? You know, have they delivered on what they can promise? Like, everyone has a strategy, and you can deliver these strategies. But what you can't say is, okay, right, we're going to take your account up by 60, 70%. You can see if there's uplift in the account. You see there's a possibility for growth through the keywords and the initial data research. But what you can't guarantee is the end result. So always understand is, if someone's pushing you to say, oh yeah, but if you get this done, you've got to get this over the line by tomorrow, or the price will go up, ignore that scarcity bullshit as well. What you want to deal with is human beings, right? You want to know that they're trustworthy. You want to know that they're going to look after you, and you want to know that they're going to be straight with you and tell you the stuff even you don't want to hear. Now, I'm happy to lose a customer all the time, in the sense that if it means me being honest, if I can't deliver or we can't deliver, we're brutally honest. People actually thank me, say, like, you're like the 8th agency I've visited. Everyone is blown smoke up their ass, willing to take the check. But they never said what you said. Like, and I've sat there and said, mate, look, I'm not taking you on. You've hit top of market. The margins are not there. You're overexposed in that market. I can't take you on, because in 3 months, what's going to happen? You're going to sit down with me and the team, and you're going to be really pissed off because you've been oversold. I'd rather skip all that, because there's all the onboarding, all the hard work that Ellis has to do. Anyway, I'm going on the rant here, but the key thing is to remember here, you're dealing with other human beings. You get what you pay for. Go and get references, and don't allow to be sold to. You're there to ask the questions, and if these people can't ask these questions honestly, cut it short. Don't bother dealing with them.
Right. Yeah. Just to iterate on that, Danny, is like, this is a two-way relationship, much like you would have with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or, friend. It's like there are give and take on both sides, and you need to be, reasonable from both angles. You need to see it from their perspective and hope that they're able to see it from your perspective. And at the end of the day, I personally am a big believer that win-wins in business are possible in almost all circumstances. So it's possible for you as an agency to charge them, to make margin, to have a team that's happy and engaged and challenged, and also for their business to succeed in terms of money in, money out, meeting their objectives, and communication and feeling like they're taken care of. So if you can match those two sides of it, that's pretty good. I mean, what else can you ask for? And then it doesn't become a question of, here, sign this for 6 months. It's, you can leave whenever you want, but we're going to be able to
policy.
Because,
no sales fee, leave when you want, because we believe in the process. Our job is, or my job specifically is, when someone comes to us, we have a lot of intelligence, or Ellis and the team have so much work to do. And because we don't charge a setup fee, because we're comfortable in what we do, and we don't charge a leaving fee, my job is to weed out people that are going to waste their time, take on all the intelligence work and go off and not use our service. I'm just being brutally honest. That is my job. So I'm looking for partners for our team so that we have a long-term relationship to help grow this company's business. And that's really what comes down to the end goal here, is that you've got to work with people you like, you've got to work with people you trust, and there must always be honesty. One of the things that we do with all of our clients, we say, when you're ready to sell, let us know. We'll help you, because I don't want them to creep around like a cat on a hot tin roof because they're selling their company and they're worried. And I'm like, if we lose you as a client, then we lose you as a client. It don't matter. But let's help you get there, because your PPC strategy has to change. Because normally when you come to sell, you get to that stage where it's like you've got to back off. You've got to have retained earnings and profit in the business, right? So it's a completely new strategy. You're not going to go balls to the walls on new launches, on exact matches to rank and stuff. You're going to be much more conservative. If I know that, Ellis knows that, and the team knows that, we'll build a better thing for you. And if you leave, you leave. Or what happens, if you're doing a good job, like we've one, I can't say anything because of GDPR, they have retained our services, even though they do stuff in-house, purely on the basis is that they're happy with why rock the boat. If it works, there's nothing broken. So that's why I prefer just to be brutally honest, instead of wasting my time and your time. And then that's how it's difficult to scale a business with that attitude, because you're not going to get loads on. But I look at the churn rate as well, right? So if you're doing this and basically you take on loads of people and you can't keep them happy, they're going to leave out the other end. So I'd rather not do that. Go through this filter process that works for both sides, and then everyone wins out of that situation. Anyway, I think I just killed the conversation.
I'd like to mention something about communication, though.
Yeah.
So communication's been brought up a couple times recently with regard to the, what an agency should be doing and stuff. Yeah. I just want to mention, so I'm not especially communicative. And I'm not like, we're not normally sending many emails to clients and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's really much more of a, we do if there's something that needs to be changed or whatever, but for a lot of our clients, for most of our clients, the communication all takes place in the monthly meetings that we have, and I think that's a good setup. They can really, if they trust us to take it on and they don't feel like they need to be doing PPC stuff, then it can be off of their mind for the month, and then we go over the thorough evaluation and the plans for the coming month in the meetings. But there are of course clients where it needs to be more interactive for various reasons. Yeah. But in general, there's not frequent communication. I just hope. But we try to make the monthly meetings high quality and. Yeah.
I'd still get our clients contact me. They can contact me anytime. My thing is, and I've always said to people, it's like, our job is to build trust with our client, and our client's got to be. We've got to communicate to the client the confidence. Like, if they're trying to run their business, right? When you think about things, why would you outsource? You outsource to professionals so that you can focus on other stuff, right? So you're focused on growing the business, so you might outsource some areas. One of those could be PPC and various different forms of management. It might be chatbots, it might be ranking. So you'd go and use these different people. If you have to send 10 emails a day, 7 days a week to your agency, then the trust is not there. Agreed?
Yeah.
Do we all agree on that? Yeah. Because what's happening is that there's still a concern. So there's two types of things happening here. Either the trust is not there, or someone is an absolute micromanager, and that's in their personality, and that's something that's not going to change. So there's two things what happens there. But ultimately what it comes down to is I want to say to people, right, we got you. We take care of this. And obviously people will always sit down with you, because you need to understand is that you're gathering a lot of data, especially us. We're working with a lot of data. So your daily changes are not going to make any real difference. It's going to be what happens over a period of time, because you can't keep changing and switching around like your strategy, right? So I think it's important that when you work with people, it's a relationship, and what you're doing is building there for the long term. Let's have a look here in the messages. Great panel here. You guys are rocking this session. Tony says, what is the best business tools you recommend to small business? Do you use Dropbox? I mean, you got Dropboxes, loads of little out there. You can upgrade your Google Drives or use Google for Business as well. Holly says, I normally hate listening to PPC chat, but such a great panel and discussion today. Thank you, guys. Selva says, lots of golden nuggets dropped. Great session. Jamie said, absolute gold, Danny. Wow, I think he meant my rent. Okay, here's a kind of general question. What are the metrics you guys are using for your PPC client audit? Ellis, do you want to share that?
Let's see. That's
the bits that you can share.
Well, okay. We look at if you're looking at sales, okay, even more systematically. Okay, the information that you get in the PPC reports are impressions, clicks, orders, spend, and sales. And then you can derive information from there about the ACoS, about the percentage of sales through ads, click cost per click, click-through rates, conversion rates. Conversion rates I find really important because if we compare that then with the keywords that the client is actually ranking on, and if they don't have good conversion rates, then the product isn't going to be able to have much success on Amazon until something changes in the listing. If their conversion rates are good, maybe more PPC would help. And the percentage of sales through PPC is important. We generally have like thresholds about what makes sense on the lower and upper ends. These are, you're going to be looking at things like, can you help this person, or does it either, and the help could either be maintaining or growing. And, the third one is defensive, just kind of optimizing things so that their competitors who are also trying to optimize things don't overtake them. And so, I mean, it's really a big picture that varies so much between clients. I mentioned all the small little metrics, but then you have all of the higher level metrics and the ratios among those metrics that you need to apply on depending on the particular store.
Makes sense. A few more in here. Rachel says, thank you for all you do for Amazon sellers. Your podcast is a lifeline for my business. You're welcome. Yari says, thanks, guys. You're the best. There's a question here that I want to get answered. It was an interesting one. Where was it? Here we go. This is a good question that the audience should know. So this varies. It says, how do agencies earn their remuneration? Sorry, can't speak today. Is it via commission or a set fee? It varies, and it can be both, none, or a blend. Well, not none, but a blend of two. So I'll give you an example. We do a flat rate, no setup charges, no leaving. Plus, we don't do a percentage of revenue, percentage of profit, or ad spend. So we don't do any percentages. It's just a flat rate, so our guys know where it comes from. But people do mixed models. Brent, what's your model?
Yeah, good segue. So we have a blended model for about, I would say 75% of our clients are like a lower base fee and then a percentage of ad revenue specifically. And that ad revenue excludes branded revenue. So let's say if your name's Ellis's sneaker company, people searching for Ellis's Sneaker Co., the revenue from those search terms are going to be excluded because that's built off of the awareness of your brand and the work that you've done for that. So we just do the math on that every month and then send the invoice. And then the rest of our clients are just flat fee, simple flat fee.
Cool. Destiny, how's your model work?
We do the same as Brent. We do a blended model. I think the biggest call out with that is kind of, you discussed the relationship and not having set contracts. We are always really open to making adjustments due to scenarios like COVID. So I know we waived 12 retainers last month, I believe, due to scenarios with just, we're not seeing the same amount of sales. So let's adjust or lower your retainer to make sure it's an accurate reflection of the work we're putting in. We do a percentage of ad rev so we can grow as the company grows. We kind of like to focus on that, lifetime value and that really long relationship. So I know we have a certain brand that launches like 50 ASINs a month. So we want to make sure that we're growing as our work grows and the sales grows, but we still have that kind of set model just due to scenarios like this, where if anything happens, we want to have a strong foundation. They know what to expect.
Yeah. Cool. Andrew here, in general, what can be the threshold for an ASIN in terms of organic sales versus PPC? I think he's looking at the ratio between the sales. So 20, 80, etc. What's your deemed ratio, Brent?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm really curious to hear what Destiny and LSU2 have to say. So generally speaking, I think 25 to 35% of sales from ads is a pretty healthy zone to be in. If we have a product or an account overall that is climbing, a couple percentage points upwards of 40%, that's enough for us to pay attention to it and maybe even alert the client and say, hey, this percentage of attributed, we call it, is increasing. If it's above 50%, then that's definitely the time where we think, okay, is this due to some kind of seasonal reason? Is this due to some situational thing right now? Or, this might not be a long-term sustainable position. So those are the percentages we look at. If it's like 10%, then obviously you should probably be spending more on ads, but that's a less common scenario.
Yeah. Destiny.
Yeah, typically the exact same metrics. Of that, around 30% we typically see from PPC. 20% of that's typically sponsored products, and 10% is typically sponsored brand, sponsored display. I expect that to increase as we get all the new tools that we're getting. They're putting a lot of focus on sponsored brands and sponsored display. And something is a great call is, if you're launching, you're probably going to have a higher percentage of PPC. Seasonality, absolutely. I think branded spend for a lot of our really large CPG style brands, we'll see a higher percentage if they're running a ton of external traffic, because it's kind of the catch-22 of, do we want to pay for this brand name that came from, Facebook ads, or do we want to lose that to a competitor that's running? So you will see a higher percentage as you get into all your external traffic, branded things like that.
Good.
We usually are looking for 20 to 40%. So we have quite a few clients who are around the 40% or slightly higher. I don't really like to see over 40%, at least not. Of course, like you mentioned, launching is different. And then, it's interesting because you were mentioning, Brent, the 10% thing. So we do have a few clients where their total ACOS is, or their percentage of sales through ads is around 10%. And there's some strange sound effects I'm hearing. I don't know if
I don't know where it's coming from.
I don't know.
Okay.
Let me just mute some mic. It's coming from Brent. I've just muted your mic.
So I'll just finish the sentence. So there's certain cases where, like for these products, we find that the ACOS, if we try to get it over 10% sales from PPC, that the ACOS just becomes unsustainable. And so it really interesting. Some corner cases that we find quite interesting and are not standard at all.
Cool. I mean, we've just gone nearly an hour and 10 minutes in. So I think maybe is a good time to close the show. Any parting wisdom from you, Ellis, before we go?
Nope, that's it for me.
What about you, Destiny? Anything?
There was one great question that just came in that I'd kind of like to touch on if we're good with that.
Let's do it. Yep, let's do it.
Awesome. So the question is about the time frame for clicks and order attribution. I've seen this asked a lot, and basically, yes, it is attributed to PPC. Attribution for sponsored products, I think, is 14 days, and sponsored brands is a little bit longer. Depending on who you speak to, supposedly there's a big change in attribution. But I think something really large to call out here is Amazon released the data that after a click, the average amount of orders typically comes in around 3 to 5 days after that click on your ad. So I think it's a great time to mention those emotional decisions and kind of the fluctuations we're seeing in Amazon advertising. I have an account that saw like a 200% ACOS a few days ago on one day. But if you look at the last 7 days, the ACOS is a 19%. So really make sure you have the data, you've seen the attribution, and don't make bid adjustments on a single day based off kind of emotional freak out of a 200% ACOS. Make sure you're looking at appropriate timeframes. I will say we have create a smaller window of timeframes just due to everything with COVID, because the fluctuations are so much different. We typically look at last 30 days data. Now we're looking at closer to 7 to 10 day data just to make those adjustments, because the shipping and lead time is having a major effect on conversions.
Cool. I just want to announce shows upcoming this week. So tomorrow we're going to do funny stories, failed products. I'm going to talk about my failed products. Tim Jordan's joining. Lee Rand Hirschkorn and Norm Ferrer are all going to be sharing, and that's probably going to end up being a multi-show because of the amount of failed products we've had between us. So that'll be tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Then Thursday, we're doing our Shopify off Amazon Part 2. Friday, Steve Simonson joins me with Alstoners versus Seller Sessions co-branding. We're going to talk about going from 0 to 50 million of what they've done in their business. Saturday is Women of Amazon Part 6, and then Sunday, me, Lee Rand, are going to do Mindset Sunday again, breaking down Naval. Anyone who's tuned in know we rate this guy. So we're going to take some passages from what he does and, just kick that around. So that is going to be Mindset Sunday. So that is it for today. Brent, if people want to reach you, how do they get in contact? You need to turn your mic on as well.
Yeah, sorry. My next door neighbor started playing the bass. I think that's what happened. We live in a very thick walled stone house, but yet the vibrations come through the wall. You can find me at hello@AMZ Pathfinder, or just come to amzpathfinder.com. And just one last comment to pile on what Destiny said. If that person is wondering, the clicks for the sale the sale is attributed to the day the ad was clicked, right? That's my understanding. So if that sale happens 5 days later, it doesn't show up on that day. It shows up on the day the click happened. Just to be clear about that.
Okay, just a quick one. I flashed it up on the screen. Aaron says we're looking for a solid PPC company. Cue hundreds of overseas people private messaging you on Facebook on the playback of the video.
Yeah. RIP your inbox, man.
Yeah, rest in peace your inbox. Yeah. Destiny, how can they reach you?
Yeah, just reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or check us out on betterams.com, or just reach out, send me a DM.
Cool. Ellis, how do they get us?
They write to you, Danny.
Yeah. Well, after my little rant earlier on, I think we won't have so many new clients, will we, from that rant? But you got to be honest.
Yeah, they're going to be scared.
1000%.
You have to look, Destiny. You agree with everything I said, right? Or most of it.
Yeah.
Apart from the swearing. Yeah.
I turn people away just as often as I bring them on board, because it hurts our relationship. We've had people that if they tell me they want a weekly call, it's typically a red flag.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Appreciate everyone in the feed. And Lee says, thank you all. Appreciated. Anna says, thank you for a great session. Jason says, great conversation, guys. Hey, guys, great show. Pat said, very good show. Thanks all. Enjoyed this a lot. Take care. Jamie says, love your content, Destiny Wishon. Appreciate you. We all appreciate Destiny. Andrew says, take care. Surely this was, what does it say? Surely going to be an interesting show. I think you're talking about the ones I read out earlier. And again, thank you, Destiny. You've got a lot of fans here today. So let's sign off. I'll be back here 4:00 tomorrow. Again, thank you so much, guys. Stay in, stay safe. Take care of your family. Lots of love. See you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Au revoir.